know at least vaguely what was coming. Remember when the freaks, when society stared at us crazy people and let loose in the streets? Have you realized yet? We are becoming the new status QUO, caring about the earth and her creatures, pursuing the spiritual awakening, connecting with the power of magic and manifestation, working with the energy and subtitle forces healing through the heart. You are not you are not alone anymore. Someone told me there is only one shaman per village. We are spread out to sacred. The world with new consciousness is validly important to connect with other modern shamans, to ground yourself in this new reality, to be reminded that you are not crazy. Together, we are lightening the pathway to a beautiful future, to peace, prosperity, and joy. Enjoy a world where the heart and soul are Bayekins and guided by. So, to my sister sensitives, don't doubt yourself. Don't doubt your gifts or your value to this world. I am grateful that personally I have survived the challenges to hold up your own light for the world. Bless your sisters. Thank you for sharing the light. Your day is dawning at last.
And greetings, brother. Tonight we have Brother Lester Lovings, and there's times when him and I get on the phone and he teaches. And so I decided to share some of our personal talk um, that he teach me with, a small group of people, of my personal friends that I talk to daily or weekly. So tonight we have Brother Lester Lovings, and our topic is this science and metaphysics. And what we're trying to do with this season 1, episode 2, is to explore some of the rituals that we do and find out why we use certain articles to do ritual, why our ancestors chose those rituals, and then he shall give us some of the science in the makeup of those rituals. And like for instance, like last week we looked at chicken bones. We discussed how there was a certain amount of quartz in them, like that. So when you're doing a ritual with chicken or birds or something like that, there's quartz in there, which could be the equivalent of if you just use quartz yourself, except the chicken has a life force. So you kill a life force that jumps through this quartz and amplifies out. And Baba Lovings told me and the group from last week that the energy of a bone radiates out into space further. And so using the chicken with the quartz and that chicken's life force, it radiates out. So some of the work you're trying to get done, but you get done with, which implies that our ancestors were super intelligent. They just didn't grab a chicken because it was cheap. They grabbed it because it served a purpose to maximize that light energy that they were trying to push out for healing or for returning a bad spell. So, Brother Lester, will you give us a little introduction on who you are? Eventually, some of the people aren't familiar with you that I met last week while I was down in ceremony. And welcome, again, welcome.
Well, greetings and boy howdy to everybody. The simplest explanation as to who I am is that I'm an independent investigator who observed throughout my entire life many different rituals, customs, cultural expressions, and started to see similarities in terms of how no matter where people came from, they did things and it had certain results of which they weren't even necessarily physically conscious that they were doing it. In other words, someone had said their mom, their mother or their grandmother or somebody said, "Well, you always stir it this way," and so I just started investigating the science of why we do things certain ways. That's my intro.
That's good. I remember you sharing about the direction the water spins in the stool in relationship to the spinning of the earth. Well, it was fantastic. So,
Oh yes.
go ahead.
No, I was just saying. Oh yeah. That right there. I'm not going to go into a whole long thing, but that right there is just a further investigation as to how natural forces work. People, I'm from America, and so people in America, we're used to our toilet spinning counterclockwise. And I remember being in high school, and certain of my classmates would come back from summer vacation, and they'd been below the equator, and they were saying, "Well, the water spins clockwise." They didn't say clockwise, but they said the water spins in the other direction. And just that simple factoid then led me on this, 30-year investigation as to why that was.
It's just, and why, since someone may not know, I know, but why does it spin that direction?
Right. I'm just saying that it takes time. We can look at something, and let me not say we. I looked at something. The water in my toilet is spinning counterclockwise, and of course, I just assumed that everywhere all over the world, the water is spinning the same way. And as long as I stayed above the equator, that fact or that assumption played out. But as soon as I got below the equator, it was suddenly that was no longer the truth. And so, I'm like, okay, so what is the difference? Why, so I'm just saying what I'm saying is in my life path, I looked at something and my first observation seemed to be the full explanation. But as I looked at it over time and I saw different things, I realized there was a much deeper explanation as to how things happen.
Can I try one explanation?
Go right ahead, Babe Ruth.
Sure. Okay, here we go. At the equator is the center of our planet. The earth spins a certain direction. And so water swirls differently because as the earth spins, it pushes air straight, and then the air gravitates toward either the North Pole or the South Pole, depending upon which force stronger. And so when you look at, if you're in the northern hemisphere, when the air spins from the equator, it would spin counterclockwise because it would go up toward the North Pole. And then if the air spins or the water spins where it's going south because of the South Pole, it would gravitate toward the South Pole because of magnetism, And so you get a different swirl based on, if you're north or south. That's the first thing that comes to mind for me,
Well, once again, that comes to mind because that's exactly what's happening. Okay. Now, I just once again, I'm not Google. I'm just the person who asked the exact same questions and looked at things, and there were many gaps in my understanding of how these things work. So in other words, I looked at the Earth, I looked at what my friends were telling me, and it wasn't that didn't take that long for me to prove that what they were saying was true. The key to the water swirling is the jet stream.
Gotcha.
The jet stream. The jet stream is, I think it's like 60 miles up. And whereas, our weather cloud fronts are moving at 5 miles an hour, 7 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour, the jet stream is moving between 200 and 300 miles an hour, 250 and 300 miles an hour. So even though we don't see it, we don't feel it, that's what's driving the local or the down or the weather that's close to Earth. And the jet stream in the northern hemisphere is going counterclockwise.
Mm-hmm.
The jet stream in below the equator is going clockwise. So I'm just all I'm doing, I'm not I'm not the Wizard of Oz here. All I'm doing is giving you the terms that our science has given to the principles that you yourself described.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm getting better. Yeah. And while it's one of the topics for today, we can almost segue right into it because that's the topic. So, yeah, because we want to look at forces, the moon, specifically the moon, and the effects the moon have on us, it has on our planet. Why do we do ritual to that? So there's certain forces, the same as that force that we don't feel that keeps the earth in place, keeps the moon in place. You know what I mean? Because they got these gravitational pulls and we don't really feel them. I don't know if it's because we're born on the planet, so naturally, or there are females that are in sync with their menstrual cycle to the moon.
Okay. Once again, brother, I really want to be careful here, so that if anybody else is listening, that they do not get the impression that I'm correcting you in any way, right? I mean, like in other words, if I tell you the scientific name for something, that's not a corrective thing. It's literally just saying that this is the language we need to speak, and when we're talking to those people in those realms. But at the same time, what I am saying, I'm sorry, remind me of what you just said.
We're looking at forces, and like you said, there are correct terms for certain forces like gravitational pulls, the earth and the moon and the sun. How, there's people that believe that the moon creates the tidal bulge, you know what I mean? But it's strong enough to make a bulge for high and low tide, but it doesn't affect us to the point that it will pull on us,
no. Okay. Yes. Okay. I exactly. And I was giving the preface to that. Yes. I lost my train of thought, but I'm back. I'm there is a train wreck, but at least I'm putting the train back on the track. People, I'm sorry to say, but people say a whole lot of stuff. I don't mean that they're unqualified to question stuff, but where's your research? Okay, now let's break it down. The 20th, and now we're in the 21st century scientific mode of looking at things is in terms of, how can, how can we measure this thing? You know, and usually measurement in the terms that they use means, what scientific equipment or machinery or whatever can I notice this difference? At the same time, what I say, because you asked me the question, what I say is for hundreds of thousands of years, the human body itself, aligned with consciousness, we're picking up on all these signals, both big and small, from the tiniest microbes and viruses underneath the ground to the giant galaxies merging with each other. And so, in other words, what I'm saying is that things are not always the same. People 10,000 years ago, I don't care that bullcrap image that they have of, knuckle dragging ape-like creatures. These people were designing concrete that, not just concrete for buildings, funk that. They were building concrete for making channels underwater. Now, how could they do that with the image that they give us of the hunter-gatherers and them wearing these heavy claws and all that stuff? No, it's because there was so much more oxygen. There was so much more elements in the air and in the food and in the ground. So contextually, things are not the same. And therefore, we can do miraculous things under the right circumstances.
So do you think that the moon is real or a satellite?
Once again, you that regardless of what I think, and let me back up for just a second. I am notorious for saying, after the lecture, you will go down to the bar that I'm going to, and we will talk about what I think. But in my position as this quote unquote scientist, whatever that means, it means repeatable results. So I don't have enough info.
Okay.
I don't have enough info to on air to say, this is this or that is that from a scientific perspective. But this is what I will say. Because the science in this regard, regardless of whether it's a satellite, a monitoring device built to track progress and actually monitor, not just track, but determine, progress on Earth, or any of the other things I've heard. The one thing I do know is that once you go a couple of feet down from the moon dust, we find that the outermost crust of the moon is made from obsidian.
Obsidian?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
90%. Yeah, okay. 90% of the moon's crust, and yeah, and beyond is obsidian. And obsidian, for those of us who, who opened up the book, we know that's the result of volcanic action, but we also know that is quartz.
Okay. Yeah, it is.
And we also know that the moon traveling around the Earth does have an effect. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Someone came in, but they muted.
All right. Okay. When the moon, of course, the moon goes around the Earth, in a 24-hour period.
Mm.
And wherever the moon is facing the Earth, it is pulling the water in its direction.
Right.
That's what causes the tides, high tide and low tide. But I'm just trying to address just briefly, this whole thing that people say about the moon and all this stuff. It's like, once again, I had the same questions that all these other people had too. And at the same time, when I looked in the astronomy books, it said that not only does the moon pull all the water toward itself, but it lifts up each continent by 6 inches.
Damn. Okay.
As it passes over. So it would also have to have an effect on each human.
Yes, it would.
Okay.
That's the.
So once again, it's not my opinion about anything. These are the known gravitational effects that are happening to us, and and to get to the point of what you're asking me, it's the consciousness of the person that ultimately is the governor or the ultimate determinant of how that energy affects us. So if we're aligned, like all of us New Age people keep saying we want to be, then these effects will be positive. On the other hand, if we're not aligned, and there's, whatever, for whatever reason, then, these things can have less than positive effects.
So let's go. Because I've never worked with Obsidian. So yeah.
Oh well. Okay. Well. Okay. Well. First of all, Obsidian is the result of quartz that has been somehow in the proximity of the volcano.
Okay.
And it gets melted down, and then it comes out, but it usually hardens at a different temperature than regular quartz. So the point is that obsidian hardens 400 degrees hotter, and if the conditions are usually right, faster. It hardens faster, and therefore the structure will not go back to its original form. So obsidian is a perfect stone to represent, getting over addiction, going from high school to college, going from virginity to non-virginity. It's that stone, it's that level that we don't go back. We go forward and upward.
Wow, that's powerful. They blew me with that. That's very deep because it's something I haven't worked Black Obsidian.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to put it in one of my organ pieces. You know what I mean? Just to
Yeah,
see.
yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, yeah. So the I wanted to get off into that force that's in a triangle. You
Okay.
know, because you got the dodecahedron Earth. Now we got an obsidian moon, right? And then
Yes.
you got that
Yes.
constant triangle with the sun. You know what I mean? And we've done some things we did a show on the eclipse, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
when you get,
Absolutely.
when you get is that part of what increases the energy when a person is doing ritual during the full moon because of the total illumination? And then sometimes when supposedly when they want to send spaceships out in space, they bounce it off the outer atmosphere at a certain angle, so it bounces, supposedly it increases speed. So when you look at the sun projects into the moon and it bounces off its atmosphere, does it speed up, which is why thus we get an increase in energy when we're doing ritual at night?
Okay. Whoa there, Trigger.
I was up early
um,
this morning.
okay. First of all, for those people who don't know what I'm referring to Roy Rogers, which was a TV show in the '60s, and his horse, who did all these amazing tricks. His name was Trigger, but meaning that what you asked me was a it wasn't just one question, it was
Yes.
multi-dimensionally layered. um uh
And I'll go. Can I add a little bit? Because
yes, please do.
in astrology, there's certain angles that are good,
Yeah,
and certain angles
yeah.
are bad. You know what I mean? And so, and
Mm.
all of that is like trigonometry and triangle. Where there's trend, and then you get the 180 degrees. That's opposition. You get a
No, no,
90-degree
no, 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 no,
angle.
no, my brother.
Yes.
What you said was exactly where I was going.
Okay.
and that is astrology. Astrology tells us the angles between different planets, and the net result of getting that information tells us how to best proceed under those conditions. So, for example, uh, when you have a planetary relationship between the Earth and the Sun, or two other planets, and it's 60 degrees apart, then that's considered to be a harmonious relationship, which means I can move. Things go with the flow. When we have what's called a square between planets, and a square is 90 degrees, that means that something has got to change in the way I'm doing it or looking at it. And each of these, and so therefore, what astrology is not about. It's not just about, this is how I proceed, or this is the ruling thing. It's about, these are the conditions, and these are how I can. This is how to best proceed under these conditions. Um, and people, and and so there's a whole marriage between astrology and astronomy in terms of, in order to know where the planets were and where the stars were, you had to observe this stuff over a long period of time in order to notice what the conditions were that happened under those angles.
And it's interesting because when you look at the distances, and
Yes.
you see, you know, just the distance between the moon and the earth, but then again, they pulling on each other to keep. Well, I read once, like the moon moves away about an inch every so many years. It might move an inch or so.
Right,
You know
right.
what I mean?
That's right.
But that's a
That's right.
tug of war in some ways because of the moon, the perfection of where the moon was placed is why some people, you know, question,
Right, right,
you know, is it real
right.
or not? Because it moves, you know, like that. But that could have been just its place where there was a balance, you know, back those
Right.
thousands of years. That could have been where it stopped because there was a balance there. You know what I mean?
See, once again, my brother, um, you know, we need to have a broader dialogue. Now,
Here.
what the funk? No, what the funk is this crazy hippie Negro talking about? What
Thank
I'm
you.
talking about, no, what I'm talking about is simple. That the Western way of looking at this situation has been so infiltrated or inculcated, is the more sedity term, you know, into our brains that even us enlightened Negroes still talk in terms of singularities or units. You know what? Okay, so what am I talking about? I'm talking about the fact that we're saying, well, the moon is moving away from us slightly, 1 inch a year, and whatever. No, that's the Western way of looking at it. The Kemetic and even further back, because there's civilizations that are 200, 500,000, you know, way back civilizations. Okay, even in Russia, they had civilizations that could perceive the cosmos from 50,000 years ago. Anyway, no, I'm getting off track here. Okay, what I'm saying is that the further back we go in time, the more that people understood and perceived and kept records of the fact that all the planets are moving closer to the sun.
Wow. Okay.
And therefore, if for a person like me who thinks in terms of radio frequencies, when the Earth was at a certain distance from the sun, then it's letting off a certain radio frequency. As it gets closer to the sun, naturally there's a compression, and therefore it's letting off a slightly different frequency. But the other planets are too. So therefore, what I'm saying is, it's just like the procession of jazz. You know, it's like, you know, you had Bird playing with Dizzy Gillespie, but then suddenly you have 50s, you know, Miles and Bird, but then you have Coltrane. Like it's a compression of the whole thing. It's not us. It's not our egotistical Earth us thing. You follow what I'm saying?
I got you. Yes.
So that would be my answer to what you're asking. That, you know, I mean, you know, the most basic thing that kicked my booty was when I'm reading in National Geographics in the 80s, and they were first starting to X-ray the mummies, and they brought in the forensic pathologists. And these people compared these mummy remains to the remains of people today. And they said, oh no, they were probably 60 years old. But then as time went on and we had greater technology, they were able to discover that those people who looked 60 were 75, and the people who looked 70 were 90. And that only happened because the Earth was spinning faster, and therefore time is slower, and digestion was different, and all kinds of things was not the same.
You just answered my question. You know what I mean? Because it's like if it's compression, but everything stays synchronized, even though it's compressing, and maybe because
exactly. Precisamundo, my friend.
Which is, in some ways, when people say time is speeding up, it kind of sort of is, but could we actually tell because of the length of time it takes for you to notice that time is speeding up?
Okay. So let me put in my Doc Martin shoes so I can beat up on this concept too, because this is something that I've heard for like 20 years now, and while it is scientifically true, it is not physics complete. And what I mean by that is that regardless of the state of the world, meaning the physical world, regardless of how fast or how much faster or slower or even the world is spinning, that's one aspect. But at the same time, an equal or even overriding aspect to that is how fast and coherently are each of our individual cells spinning. And therefore, because people say to me, oh, you're just being hopeful and you believe. And I'm like, excuse me, but we got people that came from the straight up hood ghetto, straight up stupid poverty, and created some of the greatest art forms in every genre. So how do you explain that?
That's true.
It has to do with the fact that our environment is a ruling factor until we vibrate faster than it.
Okay.
And that's straight up physics. That's why you're talking to me, because people are like, well, damn, the Negro is saying, well, all this science and what's possible. I'm like, no, this is the same physics that when you go to Iron Man 4 or the Marvel, Twisted Universe, whatever it is, these people who are talking to me are arguing about science, what's possible. And all I'm saying is there's a whole bunch of universes of what is possible, not just the one version that we're given. And, stupid me, when people challenge me on this in terms of, well, no, but we do this, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Our culture does this now. And I'm like, well, look at all the other cultures from thousands of years ago that figured out way different methods of doing things. But they all follow a certain pattern, and most of them follow a cosmic pattern. I mean, is it a coincidence? No. I'm on a donut roll here. Okay, is it a? Uh-oh.
You got some feedback. Okay, he stopped. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. So, am I? Am I confused here that when my grade school class, was we were taken to the Empire State Building in New York City, 34th Street in the middle of Manhattan. Well, that's not the middle of Manhattan, but the middle of the commercial part of Manhattan. And we just happened. Our bus had a mechanical problem, so we couldn't leave. So us kids got to hang out longer than usual. And at dusk, when the sun was going down, we looked through those telescope things that they have on the 86th floor. And when we looked to the east, we could see the lights of Boston. And when we swung that same telescope around and we pointed it south, we could see the lights of D.C., Washington, D.C. By the time I graduated from high school, I couldn't even see the lights from 20 miles away. And that was a big lesson to me in terms of perception, because people that came after me and looked at those things, they thought that was normal to be able to just look over to Jersey and see something 15 miles away. And I'm like, I used to see it in D.C. But there's that much more light pollution that happened in just that short amount of time. So we had to be vigilant in terms of thinking about and actually opening our minds and looking at these things in the way that these ancient peoples looked at it.
Hey, Doc, can I add something to the equation, the question?
No, go right ahead.
Okay. Now, if there are people and they are in agreement with their agenda, even if it doesn't benefit the masses, there's a lot of confusion in society, but there's quite a few people that are in agreement with an agenda. If they align that agenda with, say, a celestial body that's close in proximity to Earth at a specific time, will that assist them with success with their endeavor, even though most people don't know, but some are confused in reference to what's really going on in the world? And why?
Okay. If my agenda, okay, let me preface this by saying, as a scientist, if I were hired by people in authority or wanting to be in power, and they said, here's this cosmic configuration that will address our agenda. So, you follow me so far?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Okay, then what I would say is we need some preparatory action before we can cement this agenda. And thusly, I would put in it the cosmic triad, which is I would put as much sugar into the food as possible. I would make fresh food I would make fresh food less available as possible. And I would include some form of sexual frustration. And then I would put into effect whatever campaigning that I had. Because you have to weaken the body structure before you can fully guarantee successful conquer. And that formula worked back in the day, and it still works today. Do you have a follow-up question?
No, not at the time. It just really demonstrates why it's evident that regardless of color of people, if
Yes.
people are having, being taken advantage of, and there's certain groups of people that are winning and everybody else is suffering, that's basically the reason why, just like what you're saying, everybody else is out of balance and confused and in a sense submissive and not realizing that they're supporting an agenda that doesn't really benefit them because of all these other parameters.
Absolutely. Right.
That's
well.
I was just saying that's my beef with karma. You know what I mean? It's like if karma was a physics, like gravity, then it would have to impact everybody equally. You know what I mean? And karma doesn't seem to do that to me. It seems to affect the poor and keep them in sort of like a self-doubt where it's like, oh man, I ain't gonna do this because karma gonna get me. You know what I mean? Like that. And so
Yes.
That's my beef with it. And it keeps those people in check while the people that's really running amok with the planet, they don't seem to worry about karma or have karma issues because you can't, kill 1 million people with COVID. And karma is like, I'll just wait till the people that's dying try something, then I'll affect them. You see what I mean? That doesn't work.
Yes.
It just
Well,
doesn't.
If I may say, I think it's more so just like what you demonstrated about the poor, because they're poor in mind and information and the lack of seeking it. Just like what Doc said earlier about somebody being born in the hood in the ghetto and still come up and create something powerful or great that, whatever it is, be it benefits society, or just that individual. Right. Anything that benefits an individual is going to benefit society because that's just the way things work, That is what you were speaking to.
I agree.
And I don't agree, but that's
okay.
And this is why, because there's certain inventions that can, 3 months and the water was clearing up. When they shut down the planet, 3 months, water was clearing up in Venice, right? And so there's certain inventions that they have squashed that will help Mother Earth. And where's karma? You know, where's karma? Karma, you know what I mean? Like, and that's my problem with it.
What,
Go ahead.
see, once again, I have no squabble in terms of what you're saying. In other words, I'm not going to debate you. I feel your pain. At the same time, okay, I got turned on to this. Well, I just call it an organization, and what its purpose was is taking things that our government has spent money on, and after X amount of years of the patent, they now pass this knowledge on to the public so that anybody can, it's not. They don't do this to make money. They do it, just because people paid for it. But the point I'm making is, one of the things they had was, how do they purify the water on the spaceships? On our missions to the moon, and the International Space Station. How do they purify the water? There's you only have so much water. What do? So they recycled the water from the urine, and because you have a balance of of what you're trying to, how much you're giving off and what you're taking in. Well,
Is that a 1-to-1? Because, like, if you drink a gallon of water, then you're going to get a gallon of water out. Wouldn't it diminish a little bit? Even if you times it times 0.9, so you get a little reduction in the water.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Kimosabi, but no. Once again, we have to think three-dimensionally here, okay? Which is to say that that's not the only source of the water. That's the main source, but you've also got a certain amount that you're perspiring out.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore they've got to have, dehumidifiers that are pulling that stuff in and condensing that into drinking water.
And breathing.
And breathing, exactly. Respiration and transpiration, exactly.
Yeah, and I've seen a few things in reference to that, just like what you're speaking to. All you got to do is put a couple of plants in certain areas, and
Yes.
they make condensation in water also.
Yes. Well, see, once again, okay. One of the things that we've known from Dr. Carver. Okay, what did I just say? One of the things we know from Dr. Carver himself is that if we're going to travel through space, we cannot have the density of meat. Thusly, we have to figure out how to grow plants as we're going from here to Mars or Venus. And by correspondence, beyond that. So, first thing we have to deal with is how do we grow plants on a spaceship? And part of that is that wherever we have the plants growing, we have that part of the ship facing the sun, our star, for the maximum amount of time so they can grow unimpeded, meaning there's no clouds. Now you have to understand the antithesis of this, which is, people like, you have all these multi-billionaires who want to put stuff up into our atmosphere in order to block the sunlight, in order to keep the planet cool. And going against nature is never going to work.
True.
So, okay, let me end my rant by saying what I'm really saying is that if we want to preserve and heal and get on with our planet, we have to take charge and we have to analyze what needs to be done. This is not a foil counterfoil type situation where we let these people do their thing and then we come up with a counter argument or a remedy. We have to take charge, and that's what I'm banking on in terms of accelerating the intelligence, both of our individual cultures, but also of the universe. And therefore, we had to make environments that are much healthier, so we can get receptivity to know what to do.
I agree. I even believe that. I know that those children are being produced too for that change. They are producing children that are their DNA, their junk DNA is they're accessing more of their junk DNA, suppose their junk DNA, to prepare for the healing of the planet.
Okay, my brother, I'm in no way criticizing you for what you just said.
No, this is science.
No. Let me finish. Let me finish. Okay. I'm the OG on the panel here, and I'm not putting rank. I'm just saying that I had to listen to a whole bunch of bullcrap for several decades, and when they came to this, when I first heard this thing about junk DNA, my very first visceral reaction was I was ready to. I'm not a violent person, but I was ready to jump up and start punching people because it really illustrated to me the facts that they were promoting the idea that there was no intelligent design to the universe. And therefore, according to what they said at the time, junk DNA is defined as 90% of the DNA that has no function. and was actually a mistake. And I'm like, there's not a plant that I've ever studied, and I've studied many plants that did not have an immediate function, a short-term down the road function, and a long-term function. Some things were locked in that no matter what the conditions change, 100,000 years or 1,000,000 years from now, that plant would survive. So this idea that they had about junk DNA, the fact that they even named it junk DNA, just set me aflame because I was like, "How dare you?" You know, this is the reservoir of all the intelligence of the universe as to what we need to go through for as long as we need to go through it. Meaning, whether it's our next ancestral, our grandkids and whatever, or it could be, 1,000,000 years from now. So I investigated, I had looked and investigated, and that's when I changed. That's when my mind was changed. So I was like, no, they're just describing a short-term interpretation, not how nature functions.
Hey, Doc, isn't that also ego in them because of the fact of they discovered or they saw ancient information on something, and since they couldn't understand it and they couldn't see that this is part of the governing faculty, be it spiritual or physical, as above, so below, just like the brain is plastic.
Yeah.
See it.
Okay, young buck. I'm just being facetious in terms of how cinema has portrayed the old black guy talking to the younger black guy. I'm going to quote directly from the Right Reverend George Clinton, and he's talking about the name of the album is Dr. Funkenstein versus the clones of oh God, I'm old now. Okay, but
the clones of
lyric
Dr.
is
Funkenstein. That's it. And the bride. Yeah.
right. Okay. But okay, so here's the lyric, my brother. I'm saying this to back up what you're saying. Okay, the chorus says, "We love you, Dr. Funkenstein. Your funk is the best. Take my body and give it a mind that funks with the rest. Funk me on the one and then. If you like, funk me again. We love you, Funkenstein."
Yes, indeed.
No. And then after the chorus sings that, the very next thing that George says is, "Kiss me on my ego." I'm just proving what you said to be the exact formula, bro. It's the ego trip.
It's basically like saying they don't know. You know what I mean?
Well, first of all, the first ego level is somebody thinking that they know better about what my destiny is than me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first level of ego. But the second level of ego is I'm going to actually involve a system that keeps people doing the stuff that I think they need to do in order for me to not be paranoid.
Even if they don't know that they are.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right, my brother. Even if they don't know. That's right.
Yep, that's right.
That even goes back to Christopher Columbus, right?
Document of discovery, all of that. Yeah.
Right. No, all that.
How could you go into an environment And if the people don't have the same belief system that you have, meaning that causes you to be submissive to them, you
Right.
destroy them. You send in the nuns to find out exactly what they have, weaponology and all of that. And then you send in the troops, you know, and she's the best spy, the first spy. Yeah, all of that.
But that goes back to your first question to the Baba, Eddie, was can you develop a concept or pick a certain planet and build a cultural system around it, whether it works in unison with it or not? And that's kind of what they did. They came and built a cultural system around, or they overlaid certain energy. What if we knew that the moon was obsidian? How would we be maximizing that energy for the moon with obsidian? You see what I mean? Where they turn around and tell us that every time that people really study it, then they make it alien to the planet. You know what I mean? Like that.
Right.
Okay. Well, it was told here from, you know what I mean? Like that, opposed to the perfection of the universe, right?
Yeah, yeah. Excuse me for being the OG here,
Go ahead,
but
OG.
no, but see, even that makes me laugh in the sense that they've supplanted the idea that if they were aliens, they'd be gray, would it be lizards, they'd be anything but brothers.
Yeah.
And what color is the heavens once you get out into the heavens? Saith the Lord God.
Well, no. Once again, we don't have to speculate on that because we had the recordings of the astronauts from the 60s into the 70s, and once they got out into space meaning above 60 miles above our thing, and they were floating around. And especially once they got into the spacewalk thing, where they got out of the capsule, and they would say, and you can listen to recordings. This is what I'm saying. We can listen to recordings tonight after I get off the phone and babbling. And the essence is saying, I can't see the sun.
Yep.
I can't see any stars. It's all what? Black.
How about what was
So,
it, 2015? I think it was 15. The guy who flew in a rocket up out of the Earth's atmosphere and jumped off and parachuted back down to the Earth.
yes,
He
yes.
realized that he was in the proper place when everything went dark, and he said, "I ain't going no further than this." Remember that?
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yes. Yes. Yes.
But then,
What you say, Sequel?
no, but then how do you turn your if you're growing plants, how do you turn them to the mother sun then? If they really can't tell, or like that.
Well, if I can add something, Doc, respectfully,
Yes.
I used to clean offices when I was up top. A lot of those office buildings didn't have any windows. So that fluorescent light, and just like you're saying, the moisture and the attention that was given to them by the people who did the maintenance, those plants grew, and sometimes they needed to be trimmed.
Right.
And there was no windows.
Okay.
Okay. Well. Okay. And what I would add to that, is that if we just think about it for a second, why isn't all of space lit up? You got stars everywhere shining light. And the answer is that light is translated into another form of energy called a field. and those fields travel to Earth, and they get translated back into light. So it's a known phenomenon that certain materials will when this field encounters that material, meaning the building materials that they're made of, it is translated back into light, and therefore the plants will have to see the light in order for the light to be there. And and I'm just going to jump right ahead to the punchline here and say that's how melanin works. Because we could be in caves, and yet we receive that how the light retranslates back into visible light or knowledge. Because light is not just a visible thing; it's also knowledge. But yes,
And that was my thing about them trying to block the sun. It was like, yo, hey, you still can get the information. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of saying
exactly.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, you could try to. So really, the blocking the sun is another one of those their man-made metaverse thing.
Yes.
They convince you
But see,
that they can block the sun. Go ahead, brother.
No, I just want to say, I just want to say that their major project was not about blocking the sunlight. It's about blocking the starlight.
Okay.
Because it's from farther away and has much greater knowledge than our sun does.
Can I add to that, Doc?
Yo, go right ahead.
The greatest information or the greatest vibrations that comes to the earth, through the earth, and all of that is the colors and the vibrations that you can't see. I was gonna speak to earlier, since you talked about some movies. You see, cool. Buck Rogers. Buck Rogers went to a planet, and there was an old wise alien leprechaun. He fought with this leprechaun. Did you see that one?
Yes, I did.
What did that leprechaun eat? The leprechaun said it's time for him to eat or to feed. He sat on a rock, and manna or something that looked like snowflakes was falling from the heavens, and it recharged.
Wow.
Information, just like what you're speaking to, Doc.
Yes.
So, just like what you're speaking to, there's moisture and information in the air, and that's exactly why. Think about it. Why is a muskrat trying to put satellites all over the earth? He thinks he's going to block out and make this planet disappear.
Right.
We're embarking on the Aquarian age.
Exactly.
You can't impede what is designed to happen, what has been ordained to happen for a million years, or whatever celestial time it is, because it happens. I mean, if Lucy is 100 million years old, or whatever the case may be, civilizations and dynasties have risen and fallen for millions of years.
Yes.
It's a beautiful time to be, Doc.
So my question, I'm still on this. Go ahead, Eddie. I apologize. Go ahead.
No, I'm just emphasizing on the fact that, just like they talk about the brass and steel and the Iron Age, but at the same time, they talk about the Aquarian, the Aries Age that took place and things that took place back then. here we are again embarking on the Aquarian age, where they're trying to bring in electric cars that talk to you, but spiritually, you could have a 69 Camaro, and if something's wrong with that car, you still would get that information on a spiritual level. Just like they say, I think, therefore I am. Where'd you get your thought from? Like Numbers Eddie says, he doesn't say funk, he says thought. You know, from Dr. Funkenstein.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah, he a funketeer. That brother is a funketeer.
yeah, but it's that information. I mean, the vibration is what it is. Just like mushrooms. Mushrooms grow at night. That's why they call some of those nightshades, or I believe, or something like that, because
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
they try and classify them as plants, but they came to acknowledge that they have life, therefore they're more than a plant. You know, it's just so many things. And the vibration of this little mushroom, once it's consumed, it takes you into different portals. You know what I'm saying? It takes you into that etheric and that spiritual world. You know, just like venoms. Venoms do things. I mean, is this everything on this planet has a specific purpose, and harmonizing with them, going back to George Washington Carver, he said nature talked to him. When you harmonize with these things, that's another reason why they're trying to destroy it. They're all one, just like when they tried to destroy the animals in the sea. Going back to Marvel Comics, Aquaman, Chronicles of Narnia, some individuals wanted to subdue and control the world, and nature were fighting with children, lions, trees, everything was fighting against this monster to keep it at bay. What do you say, Doc? I yield.
I the only thing I would say to add to what you said is the concept of the Yugas. And the Yuga concept comes from the Hindu culture, where there are cycles, and I believe that each Yuga is like 2100 years long. And they say there are 4 of these Yuga cycles that makes a complete circle. So according to what they talk about, we have just ended the last of the cycles, the Kali Yuga cycle, which is the cycle of destruction. And now we're passing into the next of the Yuga cycles, which kind of corresponds with the Aquarian age. So what I'm saying is that, we think of nails, at least my culture, it's like, I'm building something, I'm repairing something. I go to Home Depot and I get nails. But, for the majority of the time that humans have been here on Earth, they didn't use nails. So they thought in totally different ways than the way that we do. And some of these things we resurrected. Some of the ways we'll do things will be futuristic. But it's the fact that we have to let go of the stuff that we've been doing, the way we've been doing it. And specifically because we've been taught to do these things this way, not because it's the best way to do it, but because it's the thing that makes the most money for the people that are keeping us enslaved. That's my answer.
Okay. Let's give some tools too. We got, you and I, we gave tools.
Yeah. That's okay. Right.
All right. So my question is, no disrespect, Brother Eddie, is we were talking about light information.
Yes.
So how
Okay.
do we receive light information from a distant star or Sagittarius A and translate it into a conscious information that we can use? Is there a way we can enhance that?
Okay. Well, first of all, we know that the rainbow is formed when light passes through the water molecule.
Right.
So, so what I'm saying is that we must purify, bless, pray over, whatever word you want to use, but we must keep our water as receptive as possible in order for the light of the universe to come through it and inform us. Second of all, we must make room for this information to come in, meaning that we clear out, we meditate. We spend time during the day to say, I'm stopping what I'm thinking, and therefore I'm letting the bigger thoughts come in. The third thing I want to say is that the medical definition of healthy is an organism that is letting off more energy than it's taking in. So therefore, we have to work on us getting into the healthy state in order for in order to be better informed of how to act, in order to know how to act.
Okay.
Okay, I guess I wasn't specific enough, so I'll just say this. When it comes to water and water molecules, the ultimate purification aspect is engaging both the positive and negative expression. So therefore, if I'm dancing and I'm on a dance floor and I'm twirling around to the right, and I'm going around 20 times to the right, then I need to go 20 times around to the left. And that's true of our water, because we want our water to be the most receptive of all the information we need in order to know how to proceed. And therefore, it needs to have the total balance of positive and negative.
Gotcha. Now, when you mentioned the rainbow, isn't that an angle too? Like 44 degrees, something like that, 42 degrees of where the light hits it?
Right. No, it's the angle that the sunlight hits the rainbow is something like 7 to 11 degrees. So the sun needs to be low in the sky.
Okay.
But the refraction that goes on inside of the water molecule, in order for us to perceive it, it needs to be between 47 and 53 degrees. So, it's kind of confusing. But what I'm saying is that the sun needs to be low, the water needs to be in the air, and we need to be like between 47 and 53 degrees.
Okay.
And then we can perceive, we can see the rainbow.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And because all I'm saying in terms of that regard is that those those water molecules are refracting the light coming from the sun. But if I'm not in the right position, then I can't even see that.
Yes. Yes.
And
Okay.
well, there's a metaphysical aspect or lesson in that, you know, which is to say, I got to be in the right position in order for me to perceive it or see that thing. So 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 it's just saying, what I'm saying is I have to be open to not only, having my eyesight being good and whatever, but also being tuned in for it to say move, 20 feet down the road, or, because the example I gave you was I read this in a book and I disbelieved it. And then we were driving, I was with someone, we were driving on the highway, and out of nowhere, the rainbow appeared. And I asked them to pull over, and we backed up far enough that it disappeared. Then we went back, and it reappeared. So I was like, oh, this is a whole angle thing.
Okay. So when we look at that angle, right?
Yeah.
Because the angle, it should add up to 180, right? All of them. So then there's one angle.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I got you. Now, how do we put that on like an altar or like that energy? Do we have to like have our candle at the 7 degrees?
Well, see. What once again, the wonder of nature is that nature works. It deals with complex concepts, but it expresses it in simple ways. So therefore, when it comes to the altar, the simplest way to encompass all this principle is to just have a candle.
Okay.
The candle itself will express all the colors. It will, the colors. It will organize the air molecules to vibrate at the same speed, and therefore you can program that, and therefore charge up your environment. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. That's built in.
Okay, cool. Okay.
And the quartz crystal. I can't say the words. Y'all got me high right now. I mean, y'all some drug dealers. Y'all
Yeah,
are drug dealers.
yeah, absolutely.
Because you need something to shift, and I don't know how to say it, but what I'm saying is, when I was younger, you go places, just like prime example. They say there's spirit that lives in the trees. And people used to
Yeah,
hang different color bottles and things like that from the trees, right?
yeah,
So if
right.
you lay on the ground underneath that tree at a certain point when the sun is in a certain place and how cool it is under the tree, going back to the moisture, there would be a reflection from certain bottles on the tree or on the ground of different colors that would be somewhat similar to a rainbow, or looking at a
Yeah,
crystal.
yeah,
Or
absolutely. Right.
it's awesome. Meaning you would need something also to reflect that light if you don't have enough moisture or water in that environment. I've seen a couple of times, it really amazed me. I've seen double rainbows in the sky.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
scared me. It actually scared me. I was like, what's going on? It's like, was there a portal there or something? Like I can remember, a lot of times, like you're saying, after it rains or whatever the case may be, during sun showers, you could see a rainbow, but I can remember quite a few times where I seen double rainbows. stars in the sky. It was amazing. And, you know, I mean, this is like going back maybe 9 years or 7 years ago. And I've never seen one before that, to my recollection anyway.
Okay, but my brother, as usual, you confirmed what I was saying, which is, it's you were at the right perceptive angle, and you were also at the right perspective angle. Meaning that double rainbow indicates to me that your mind saw that, not your eyes.
Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna have to marinate. I'll get back to you in 2024.
All right, bro. I'm sure the sauce will be done by then.
No, that's deep science right there. It's like perspective, you know, willingness, at the right vibration at the right time. All of that coincides.
Right.
So should we stop at there while we're at that angle to receive, technically?
Oh, brother, that's a redundant question. That is literally the indication of the moment of reception and projection. In other words, what I'm saying is that's a resonant moment. That's not a molecular moment where waves are moving through the air. That's a moment where we are 100% receiving the information and we can project back.
Word? Okay.
In alignment. Wow.
Alignment. Exactly. Now,
I used the wrong
me for
word, but go ahead.
No, there's no wrong word, bro. Okay, you used the word that was at the best of your perception, and you know we're here to lift each other up.
Yeah, because the word should have been interaction. You know, if you come in the angle, you just stop and interact with them, right?
Of course.
But alignment to me is a good word because of the fact that if I wasn't on, so to speak, that right, the proper angle, if not the right angle, whichever way you want to look at the word right, that's why I figured to use proper.
Right.
And receptive to always striving to be harmonious with all things specific, especially nature.
Right.
You know, that's alignment. I was harmonious, which is basically in the right alignment.
No one's arguing here. You know, exactly. You know. And okay, this is how I want to express it. Regardless of what words we're using, and of course we're using whatever terminology that best fits what we understand and as close as we can get. But the fact of the matter is, we live in a culture that does not want to face the truth. Thusly, we're doing the work. We're doing the heavy lifting and continue on because we're going to bust through to what helps us to move. You know, so many of the great scholars of science have said certain things, and you know, our cultures repeat these things, but it doesn't help people to move. So they've converted whatever their brilliance was into an expression uh, that helps us to doubt ourselves or our intuition. And so all I'm saying is, you know, our truth, what urges us to move forward and upward, that's what we have to honor.
Mm.
And that's what each of you are doing. So I'm not saying like some futuristic thing. I'm just saying that, you know, so many of the things that I learned in school, like Isaac Newton and, you know, all those cats, you know, even they were gangster in their time.
And they became as famous as they did because
Mm-hmm.
of the acceptance of their thought, even by demonstration or their explanation thereof. Just like Isaac Newton and the apple falling from the tree, you know, simple science. And I forgot what he labeled that activity. The law of gravity. Crazy Eddie.
Gravity, right, gravity.
There's many wars that have taken place and so many different devices that they were using demonstrated the same thing, but he put a label on it, and therefore in that society it made him famous.
Okay. Once again, I'm not here to judge or evaluate anyone's interpretation. What I will add to what you're saying is, it'll be anecdotal. When I went to school, I learned, or that is to say, people taught me that Isaac Newton saw the apple fall from the tree and said, "Oh, there's a downward pulling force that keeps everything in check," and he mean that gravity. As an adult, I went back and read the literature, and the thing that was most significant about Sir Isaac Newton was that he never saw an apple fall from the tree. He imagined it in his mind.
Wow.
And that's really the bottom line of what you and you, Isiku, and all of us are about. It's the cosmic mind that guides us to understand what we're here to do, not a physical thing. Now, it would be great if he saw that, but the fact that he imagined that is the leap forward and upward. And that's a whole different story than he saw an apple fall from a tree.
Wow.
So I'm endorsing what you're saying, bro. I'm like, yeah, right on, bro. Right on. Keep going. And once again, I'm no different than anybody else. It's just I just keep going and digging. And it's like, wait, this is not the story I was told.
Well, that was
Not
like
at all.
that was similar to when you told us about Lucy with just a bone and they put the other bones.
Yes.
You know. Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, we
Before
have to
we
look deeper. I'm sorry.
let's look at that aspect of the rainbow. You know, the trendy word now is, oh, I got a download, right? So
Yes.
when you're driving through and you at this angle, because you're basically at 100 and let's say there's 123 degrees somewhere in that triangle to add that whole 180, right? Um,
Right.
is it instantaneously? Because I'm more like, hey, let me pull over from now and then and, you know, put myself in the state where I can truly receive. Or is it instantaneously as you drive through it? You get this information.
No, it is the receptivity of the cell.
Okay.
Meaning, what I mean by that specifically is if you have one cell that is vibrating at the frequency of the magnetic field that you're going through, then the other cells will get that information. The more significant thing than receptivity is acting upon the information. And I'm working on what that is called, but that is the dominant force of what we're looking for. It's not just receiving information, but acting upon it.
Yes.
And that's where the blockage is that they put in our society, whether it's in the food or the TV shows we watch or whatever. But that's what we have to overcome.
Now, Doc,
Yeah.
that is very interesting because just like what some people say, we specifically melanated individuals, specifically in America or in the West, we were colonized, put in concentration camps, meaning our ancestors. And since we come from those specific trees that lived during that time, even if some of them never were in that concentration camp, it's still the horrific things that were taking place at that time. Just like people are starting to do the research now to find out that we've been here. Some of our ancestors weren't prisoners of war and all of these things, but part of that belief system, even just like in the Bible, talking about a deity or something outside of us. All of these things is part of that same separation, right? Because your abundance and the mind is all as above, so below. All of that is in an allowing or an emanation of information and energy that comes from within us to make known the unknown, right? If I'm not, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can confuse people by the way I express my thoughts or, what comes to me. But is that the case?
Use a movie.
That is the case.
Okay. The Karate Kid.
Yes.
A lot of the motions and movements and things, he was taught how to move and do things simply like painting the wall, wax the car as far as the hand movements and things like that. But he demonstrated his best skill sets once he tapped into what was inside of him by just moving in reference to what was coming at him. He combated and countered the force that was coming at him, and he defeated it just by, in a sense, aligning with it.
Yes.
Like a bulletproof vest.
Yes, in a sense. In a sense. But like I prefer to say more so like what Neo did in the Matrix once he realized what was inside of him, because he died to the world in the first Matrix, and he woke up as that so-called prominent one cell in his being, that basically took over. His spirit took over. And that's why he could stop the bullets, just like Morpheus told him. He said, will I ever get to the point where the bullets won't hurt me? And I forgot how it went, but Morpheus basically told him, when you become who you are, nothing will hurt you or stop you. Something like that. I forgot how it went. So in that particular scene, 100 bullets came at him and he just raised his hand and they stopped. And then he just looked at the bullets and then it just fell to the ground. Go ahead, Doc.
No, you described it perfectly. Once we understand the energy that goes on within us all the time, we will be able to regulate that energy outside of us all the time. And that's what scares the funk out of these people.
That's powerful.
So it requires that we keep investigating, keep doing what we're doing, and eventually we will come up with what we need to do. What I mean by that is, it's not going to look like it did before. It may look like it in some ways, but in other ways it won't look like that. That's just nature. But we do have to investigate what has gone on before and learn from it, and and find ways of making it financially viable.
I was talking to somebody today, Doc, about Sankofa. Sankofa is going into the past, finding what is relevant back then, and bringing it into the future to make the future more successful for our benefit. And they were thinking that I was talking about soul searching back in the past and looking at only the negative experiences that happened.
No.
Exactly.
Y'all are giving me some questions.
Go ahead, ask the scientist, because there's no answer without a question, my brother. I love that.
So I'm going to ask them backwards, okay? Because we're talking about receiving energy, blah blah blah, light energy, transformation of energy with water. So let's talk about sleeping, like with what we talked about. Is there a way that we can sleep to ensure that that energy enters into us and manifests into our consciousness?
Okay. Well, sleep has to do with how many 90-minute cycles we go through of what's called REM, rapid eye movement, and non-rapid eye movement. And before we had modern lighting, people would get up between 3 and they'd get up at 3 in the morning and work it until 4:30 in the morning. And they go back to bed, and then they wake up. They wake up at dawn. The reason I'm bringing this up is that we have to go through a series of REM cycles in order to integrate the cosmic information we're getting.
Thank you.
I don't mean cosmic in the New Age sense of like disbelief. We're receiving literally information from the cosmos that's coming down into us. And therefore, the bottom line of what I'm saying is that in order for us to get out of our enslavement, we must be rested. And that means 8 to 10 hours of sleep. And we have to fashion our lifestyles so we can get more sleep in order, because the universe is sending us the answers in terms of how to get out of this enslavement. But we've got to dedicate the amount of time in order for those answers to come to us.
Okay, because I'm sure, you've heard of people that aren't sleeping well or waking up at, I have a lot of friends. Yeah. So is that intentional from the universe, or is that's outside forces just trying to keep us disconnected from that, besides, making people work a 40, 80-hour week, like that?
No, that's from the universe.
Okay.
That is from the universe. That the universe is saying this stuff is not working. And therefore, we've got to find another more efficient way, or a more aligned, not efficient, because efficient kind of sounds like, let me just, work and figure out how to suffer the least. And I'm like, no, that's not how the universe works. The universe works where everything is aligned.
Mm-hmm.
Harmonious, yes.
Like back when people used to take the siesta through the day, and I'm not making fun of it, but they would actually stop work, sleep, and then get back up, and
Yes, that's right. That's well. See, once again, that has to do with the fact that the Earth shifted. The Earth itself shifted, and therefore people knew we were getting different rays. There's this thing called the solar lens that I'm trying to find out more about, but that was the time to rest.
Okay.
And we've shifted again. Not as much as before. We've shifted again. And this is the thing. What we're talking about is the fact that people are not aware of what is physically happening on Earth. And somehow these ancient people spent a tremendous amount of time and energy to find out what was happening on Earth in relation to the cosmos.
Wow. And that goes back to the shaman and the oracle.
Oh, yeah. That's right. That's right. That's right. Look, I don't even have time in this phone call to talk about how the fact, that growing up or as a young adult, I heard about the Oracle of Delphi. And only once I got into my pyramid investigation did I learn that the Egyptians had discovered and established the Oracle of Delphi and the other oracle. So they set up two different places. So Egypt spread out their knowledge all over the world. And there are civilizations older than Egypt or Kemet that spread this knowledge out all over the world. And that's what we have to deal with, is realizing that the history has been limited to us. I mean, like what we think of as history is so limited, and we've got to uncover our history, but we're only doing that to know where we're going. And part of where we're going is being more receptive. And regardless of what frequency the Earth is spinning at, we can still get the message.
Can I throw a Bible verse in there?
Go right ahead.
Grab Natty.
In the New Testament, they talk about
Yes.
the Garden of Eden. Do not eat of these two trees. The serpent energy corrupted Eve, being her on her cycle. Well, I guess she wasn't supposed to have had a cycle until, you know, she got cursed by an agape loving deity for disobeying if he was the agape loving deity. But anyway, my point is, this supreme being is misting through the Garden of Eden, and he's calling out to Adam. Adam is hiding in the bushes. He can't find or see Adam. And then he asked Adam when Adam came out, where was he? And he said, I was hiding because I was ashamed. Why were you ashamed? Because I'm naked. Who told you you were naked?
Right.
It's interesting that how, just like you're saying, going back to Newton and the apple, as long as something outside of us, instead of that natural feeding, is what we allow to govern us, we'll always be led astray. We'll always be participating with an alien force, something that doesn't, something disagreeable, pretty much.
That's right.
I'm a believer in their intentions is to co-opt the age of Aquarius and overlay their AI and all their stuff to make people think they're in the age of Aquarius. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah.
So that we never ascend to that level. And also, if you retort, what is a good time to rest?
I'm sorry, say that again.
And we were back. You were talking about you must get your rest during your sleep and get a certain number of REM cycles. And then you said the Earth had shifted, and so the time to rest back at that time is a different time now. And I'm just saying, since you are aware that the Earth has shifted, what would you say is a good time for people to rest, to start to receive that energy, like 12 noon during the day? 3 o'clock.
Okay. My answer to that would be that people map out a given amount of, it's not the amount of time, it's the fact that we map out that a given amount of time. Okay. Let me back up. Hold on. I realize. Let me back up. In the time of ancient Egypt, the supreme vibration was the 51-degree pyramid. We know that because it was the biggest of all the pyramids. It's the most supreme built of all buildings ever built on the planet. It's retarded. However, we've shifted from that, and therefore we now know that instead of the 51-degree angle pyramid, the 62-degree angle pyramid is more aligned with that same principle. It doesn't mean that the 51 has been overridden. It just means that for right now, for people who don't have that long-term memory, the 62 is the one that will get us through. And therefore, what I'm saying is that the pyramid shape will always be there to guide us and help us to tune into whatever frequency we need, regardless of what time period or what energies we're going through space. But because I can already hear questions being asked from people, what I'm saying is we can't we as humans cannot escape the pyramid shape. We cannot. It's in our blood. It's all over the planet. You know, it's throughout the cosmos. This is not some freakish one-off weirdo thing. You know, no, this is a constant. So we have to, our culture does not deal with constants. It deals with changing stuff all the time. And the Egyptians and the ancient people were like, well, there's some stuff that's really hangs out forever. So that's what I would say.
Okay. So that's powerful with the pyramid. So there's 10 pyramids in the dodecahedron, right?
Okay.
And
right.
The Earth looks like a dodecahedron, right?
No, the Earth is a dodecahedron.
It's a dodecahedron. Okay.
Yes.
So does each of those pyramids represent something? And are they 51 and 62 degree pyramids? I'm off track, basically.
No, pyramids are of different angles.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that back in the day when pyramid building was significant, then they had angles closer to 51, but also the angles represented where they were in relationship to being above or below the equator.
Okay. Wow.
Okay, and that right there tells us that this was a global system. However, in addition to that, each of the angles has to do with how far out it radiates the energy, and therefore, if you're growing stuff, if you have livestock, if you have even humans, they're going to act in a certain way because you have this big ass structure that's providing the proper energy for them to be aligned with the universe.
And now, speaking on the ley lines with
yes, go, you go, boy.
with those ley lines, these grids in alignment with certain celestial bodies, which is why they were built in proximity at certain alignments at certain times. Like say, for example, they say that the pyramids here in the Americas are older than the ones in Africa, and the ones in Antarctica or wherever might be older than the ones here in America.
Right.
So therefore, it also had to do with the alignment of the stars with the grid or the vibration that was coming to the earth at that particular time. This is where the signal was stronger at. And just like what they say about, oh man, like trees. If you cut down a tree in Africa, the trees in America know it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
The 23rd monkey or something. Remember they talk about the monkey and the coconut or the banana?
That's 100 monkey theory, but yes.
Wow. So therefore, being still at a specific time, or dying, or being at rest, meaning you're asleep, so therefore you're dead to this physical world. That's when you can get those so-called downloads or those dreams or whatever, the astral travel or whatever the case may be, to get that information to bring it into this physical.
Excuse me, younger man. Okay. Okay. Because I was about to get up this phone, but since you brought that up, I've been rejuvenated. Okay, because the first thing I want to address, the very first thing I want to address is, how do we define living? Before we even get to the fucking afterlife, afterlife, we got to define what life is. So let's start there. What is life?
He talking to you, Yasiku. I ain't messing with that.
No. I'm talking to whoever's on the other end of the. Yeah.
We'll wait till after the Supreme Court decide on Roe versus Wade.
Oh, here we go.
No.
I like that.
No.
I like that.
No,
we pause for intermission, my brother.
No, okay. Now, see, once again, I'm so glad that you said that, in the sense that, okay, before I even give you my download of this of contempt, okay, I'm gonna tell you a little story, and the story is, back in 1987, I was on the radio in New York City, and I asked the host, this person, I love this person, but he asked me to come on the show. And while we were on the show, I asked him, the question was, what is the population of the earth? And he said, I don't know. Is it 4 billion? Is it 5 billion? Is it, this was 1987, right? And I said to him, I said, Lloyd, that is the problem. The problem is we look at this situation only in terms of ourselves. How dare we think of the population of the earth as 4 or 5 billion? That's 4 or 5 billion humans. Yeah. Okay, there is 10 times that many, bees. There's 100 times many more beetles and
lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my!
Oh my! There you go. That's exactly my point. It's like, we discount the life forms, the life that is here. So how are we going to even talk about the afterlife when we're not even acknowledging 1/10 of the life that's here? You follow me, bro?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, but no, we're not going to stop there. We're going to go way beyond that. Okay, because when we talk about life, when science talks about biological life is defined. It says it moves. What? Yes, it moves toward its food source. It moves away from its predatory source.
Even rocks.
Yeah, even rocks. Precisely, my brother. Precisely. High five. Okay. Now, it breathes. It takes in energy and it breathes out energy. It breathes. It recognizes like life forms to itself. it reproduces. Okay, these are all things we can measure. And then there's that other wiggly, squirmy, oh my God, we ain't got a clue fucking thing about life, which is consciousness.
I had that conversation today.
Okay? And therefore, before we can be even the arbiters, meaning the judges of evaluating or answering that question, we have to answer, how do we define consciousness? And I'm saying we as the scientific community. I've always been I'm not of the scientific community, but the universe said you gotta be there in order to change them. And so that's where I'm at.
Now that reminds me of a movie, you know.
Which one?
When they were trying to determine was data a conscious being. Remember that whole court thing? I know Eddie shocked them saying a movie, but yeah, because they were trying to determine if data was a sanctioned being. You know what I mean?
Right. That's right. That's right. That's exactly right.
Ended up coming out that he was a conscious being. Like that. And so, because some of us are living, but we're not really conscious. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a good one. I love it. Eddie mentioned that a tree in Africa knows when a tree is cut down in America. He mentioned that, right?
Yeah. Yes.
You mentioned that the moon is primarily obsidian.
Yes.
My goal is to give another tool for your moon ritual. Does the obsidian of the moon communicate with the obsidian on this planet? Obsidians. That was literally the whole purpose of me mentioning that. It absolutely does. Wow. Thank you for the big yes. So family understands, like even on your tables, when you're doing your moon rituals, add some obsidian because there's a communication with it, even if you put it on top of your head or on your forehead, because there's some information won't come to you for them full moon rituals. That's right. That's right. Okay. Yeah. That's what I wanted to know, because it's a thing. We've gave some tools, even folks could look at, if they get a 62-degree pyramid, you know what I'm saying? That's right. To receive certain information, get you some obsidian, family, and some sleeping. Make sure you get at least once a week. You should at least sleep 8 to 10 hours, like that. That's right. I'm feeling from sun to moon, like that. Yes. That's what I'm feeling, so you get information from the sun and then the moon comes up and you get that type of information within that, Absolutely. Okay. And then even like I was telling a lady the other day to go out and put her palms up to the sun and receive information. So I was just wondering, can we make this broader when we're talking about the rainbow, and you said light information turn to conscious information from light to water, you know what I mean, and being at certain degrees. Yeah. Could that also pertain to if you just went out and sun gaze, Once again, the whole idea of doing a rainbow ritual or a volcanic ritual. The whole idea of that is those are rare occurrences. Okay. And because they are rare occurrences and so energetic, we want to capture those. On the other hand, we have
the same amount of cosmic energy coming from just your daily sunrise or sunset. And therefore, if I am gazing, if I'm a sun gazer, going as the sun is going down, and I do that every day, even if for 2 minutes, overall, I'll be gaining the same amount of energy as if I saw a volcano erupt. You follow what I'm saying? One is a very intense collective energy, and therefore, yes, I'm going to gain a whole bunch of energy from that at once. On the other hand, the other one is one that happens every day. And if I just build that energy up, I will gain as much, if not more, than that immediate eruption because I built it up. And therefore, you know, therefore I can handle it versus if I see this volcanic eruption and it's very intense and violent and it represents all this cosmic energy, but if I'm not ready to release that energy, then I'm going to have problems too.
Mm-hmm.
Do you follow what I'm saying?
I got you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just like in martial arts. They emphasize
Exactly.
you should never fight somebody that is angry, because if they're angry, they're not in control of themselves. They could hurt themselves or cause you to hurt them.
Right.
See, now you got me thinking again. So when the greatest building was done on this planet, was it when the moon was volcanic?
Just repeat the sentence. I didn't hear the whole sentence.
Oh, I said when the greatest building or was done by man on this planet, was it when the moon was volcanic? Because supposedly the moon at one time it was volcanic. It was like and you were mentioning that the amount of information that goes out when you see a volcanic eruption, right? And
yes.
So would they would have been building pyramids at that time?
No. I'm laughing at your question because there were no men. There was no humanity at that time.
Okay.
No, that came hundreds of millions of years later.
Wow. See, and I'm appreciative of you saying that. Excuse me for interrupting, because there's a lot of planets in the universe. So
yeah,
that same science, just say, for example, Jupiter or Saturn, whatever the furthest planets are, I don't really have it in the top of my mind right now. So
okay, it's all right.
Say there's a volcanic activity that's going on that planet at a particular time. That same vibration and that same energy is traveling through the universe. So that same information or vibration
is coming here
also.
That's right.
Like the storm on Jupiter, or when remember that one what was it, that eclipse?
Talking to Mike, Yasiku, we can't hear you. You're too far away from the mic. When you turn your head the opposite direction, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. Like the lunar eclipse about 4 years ago, when a meteor hit the moon and it vibrated. That would have been a lot of information.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Oh yeah, so we gave him some good tools here, and to go with, does the sun have a language?
No. Okay, I'm sorry. Rephrase the question. In other words, no, meaning like, no, that's not a question. Does the sun ask what language does it have?
Thank you. That's what I meant. You know what I mean? Yes. Okay. So once again, my friend, okay. Each of the planets in our solar system have been given names, and we're familiar with these names from the Western system.
So our moon, Earth's moon, is the name is Luna. And people always challenge me on this, and they're like, "Well, how do we know there's a word? The name of the planet is Luna." And I'm going to ask you this, Brother Ezekiel: how do we know that our moon is called Luna?
Can I answer that? Ezekiel, you got the
Yeah,
answer?
yeah.
Bail me
No,
out,
no, yeah,
please.
no,
Bail me out.
no. Yeah, go, no. Answer that. Yes.
Okay, because when there is an eclipse at night, what do they call it?
Lunatic.
That's the people.
Mm-hmm. No, so what do they call it?
This is an eclipse of the lunar.
Okay, yes.
But wouldn't that be in Greek, or does that go back to Kemet? Lunar.
That was precisely my point, is that when we look at the word for the sun, what is the Latin word for the sun?
Solar.
Soul. Okay, and that's the Kemetic connection. Is that they looked at our sun as our soul guide,
Okay.
how our soul needed to act.
Wow.
So that's why they're trying to block it out. So the people who are considered to have more soul, the ancient ones, wow.
That's right.
I don't even want to finish that statement.
Once again, I don't give a rat's ass about about when you're going to finish that statement, because you're going to finish it. What I will say is this. Okay? No, I'm just straight up. What I want to say is this. Okay? When I got into investigating pyramids and the building of pyramids, the very first thing that I learned was that these people spent 20 years building, cutting out these blocks and putting them together. And I read this book, and the book talked about how the Egyptians built the pyramids. And the very next day, one of my good buddies called me and said, "Would you like to ride with me out? Because I got to get some stones from the quarry outside of town." And I was like, going on car rides. But once he said the word quarry, I was like, whoa, I can ask the quarry people about this. And we got there, and while he was getting the stone for his dad, I asked the quarry master, I said, well, I want to build this building. And I've got these 5,000-pound stones that are polished to this quality. What would it take for your company to put them together. And homeboy looked at me for a minute, and he said, "We can't do that. We don't have the ability."
Now, Doc, are you trying to tell me that these things that the West have been saying, that the people of the earth have never been as smart as they are now, is a farce?
I'm saying to you that only if I accept their explanation that I would be a farce.
Wow.
In other words, I'm agreeing with you. On the first day of my investigating the pyramids, I learned certain things. And then the second day, my friend took me out to the quarry, and I asked him, "Well, how would you build this?" He's like, "We can't build this." And I'm trying to let you know that up until that moment, I thought, this is America. This is the 21st century. Or we're not 21st, but this is the 20th century. We can do whatever. And then homeboy is telling me, no, we can't do any of this. Because he said, if you have each of those sides of those two stones you're talking about. And I didn't tell him I was talking about the Great Pyramid. I just described the specificity of the stones. And he said, if we tried to lift it with a crane and put one of those stones next to the other, we would chip one, if not both of them. And that was the moment. Even though that was the first day of my pyramidology, that was the moment I was like, I've entered a twilight zone of information. Like, what are you talking about? What do you mean you can't do this?
See, that goes back.
And then also add, and you want a king's chamber in the middle. That's what's deep,
No, even before that, he was emphasizing on he wanted them to be polished also when they said they don't have the technology to let alone put them together, but even polish those kind of stones.
That's right. I did say that. That's right. That is right. It was a double whammy, my brother. It was a double, mind spank. It was like, what are you talking about?
See now, because just like what you're speaking to, this 4'2" or however short he was, I forgot how tall they said he was. The man who created the Coral Castle down there in Florida. I'm sure
Yes.
None of those stones were polished, but the fact still remained. Some of them was heavier than 3 tractor trailers.
Yeah.
And the gate or the doorway, which was the first picture that I saw of this place, there's about a 6-year-old child standing by this big stone that's perfectly balanced that he pushes it open with one finger. Not even leaning into it, just pushing it.
No, you're absolutely not only are you absolutely right, but when they asked Homeboy, the local people asked him, when I say local people, I mean newspapers, and they asked him, how are you able to build this by yourself? And he said, and I quote, I figured out how the Egyptians built the pyramids. Unquote.
And can I add something else to that?
Yeah.
They tried to say that he built it at night because he didn't want people to see how he was doing it instead of the stillness allowed that vibration that he was using or that was coming from the heavens to assist him getting into that alignment to utilize that vibration to cut him and to lift.
Okay, so this is how I'm going to end this conversation, because I've forgotten. I was going to mention this and I forgot it, but now that you said that, this is how I'm going to say this. When I first started studying the building of the Great Pyramid, and they were talking to me, all the Egyptologists were saying, well, they had slaves and they had these ropes and they did whatever. But then I read this one fact, and that one fact was that it was 120 degrees every day. And I was like, this is a nighttime culture. Get the fuck out of my face in terms of anyone pulling ropes in the middle of the day when it's 120 degrees. That doesn't make sense. You exhaust the people. No, that's retarded.
That would have been a
But
holocaust.
but as soon as I realized, wait a minute, but then right at that moment, and I had that aha moment, I was hooked up with all these Kemetic societies here in New York City. And they were talking to me about how the word they had for the beginning of the day, and the Kemetic word for the beginning of the day was Eve, E-V-E. And that's the root of the word evening.
And it's in the Bible.
And then, because the night was going to die and the sun was going to come back up, they called that the death of the day. And the word they used for that was mourning. They were mourning the death of the darkness. And that's the origin of the word mourning.
Wow.
So, once I took all that into consideration, I was like, get the funk out of here. I don't know anything about the reality that I'm supposed to know. Let me investigate further. So, I'm getting off this phone because I got to go pee and then lay down. But it's been an enjoyable, wonderful, enlightening, sharing prospect. And we're going to take this even further because, we have answers to a lot of these questions. Not just questioning it, but there's things we can do. And my brother, I will get a 62 degree. I will get a 62 degree permit to you. I'll figure it out.
Hey Doc, can I add one more thing to that? Modern day.
No, at least one more.
Okay. There's a sister I met when I came. I was in North Carolina before I came to South Carolina. She was a massage therapist. She got the opportunity to go through Arabia. I forgot where she was specifically, in the so-called Middle East. But when she went there, she went to sleep, and then she's supposed to go to some of the wealthy people's house to give the women massages. She went to these people's houses at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the daytime. They didn't really speak English, so they just sent her away. They just waved their hands at her and sent her away, meaning the servants. So then at nighttime, when she gets something to eat and go into bed, they would come and get her.
Wow.
And they did that 3 days in a row. And that's when, she started to get in contact with people who spoke both dual languages. So then they told her, nobody comes outside until evening when the sun goes down.
Wow. Wow.
So she had to change her circadian rhythms because of just like what you're speaking to, that fact. They live at nighttime, not during the day down there.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Well, it's the same with black folk here. You know what I mean? When they really
Yeah,
go out to a picnic, it's evening. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
You have some early ventures.
Wow.
But anyway, I do appreciate you for,
Yes, Doc.
giving us information, and we got some tools. So that we can look at, because I'm gonna run out and get me some obsidian, for that. And there's some other things
Absolutely.
that,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and I'm reducing my days at work because I like to come back and take a nap. So I can sleep my 4 hours and come back and take a nap a few times a week. So I appreciate that. And I'm gonna have to find a pyramid or get with you on the 62-degree pyramid.
Okay.
Yeah, so you gave me some stuff. You got me taking notes. Then again, yeah. And I appreciate you, Brother Eddie, too, for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you too, Brother Eddie, for coming in. All right. Peace and love, y'all. Once again.
Kirk out.
Peace.